Hi everybody! There are a lot of places on this planet that are definitely worth a visit at least once in a lifetime. You know, the breathtaking beauty of nature. And there are other places that you should never visit. Not because there's nothing to look at, but because it can be really dangerous and death-defying. But despite the frightening conditions, most of these places are inhabited by people, and their courage can only be envied. So today, we will visit the most extreme places in the world and see if they are really that dangerous. Let's get it on. Citarum River. People often pollute water bodies where they live, and this is a huge environmental problem, and sometimes it becomes dangerous, not only for wildlife, but also for humans. The Citarum River is located in West Java, Indonesia, and plays an important role for the locals, providing for agriculture, water supply, industry, sewerage, and so on. Probably too much for one little river. In addition, people also discharge regular household garbage here, covering the whole river with waste. There are about 5 million people living in its basin. Imagine all the trash that they produce. Besides, there are a number of plants and factories. Not so long ago, the river was rich in fish, with blossoming gardens and birds singing on the banks. Alas, now you can see only plastic rubbish. Fish has long since died out, only bacteria are left. But what's most surprising and alarming is that the water from this river is not only used to irrigate crops, but people actually drink it, because there's nothing else to drink. Of course, the water is boiled before use, but that only kills harmful bacteria, leaving the salts of heavy metals and other toxic substances. You can probably picture the consequences. Oymyakon. Have you ever complained about feeling cold? That's because you've just never been to this village in the Sakha Republic in Russia. Oymyakon is best known as one of the poles of cold of our planet by a number of parameters. The valley of Oymyakon is the coldest permanently inhabited settlement on Earth. About 500 people live in the village, and the conditions are definitely not very comfortable. Can you imagine going to the restroom outside when the temperature is minus 62 degrees Celsius? Well, the people of Oymyakon can. And they keep living in these harsh conditions despite the multiple problems they have to face. The ink freezes in pens, batteries lose their power, and if you hang your wet clothes outdoors, they become so hard that you can actually break them. On the other hand, you can hammer nails with a banana. Where else would you see something like that?
Effective! Look at that!
That's probably why tourists from all over the world often come to Oymyakon. Many people just want to challenge themselves, but to do this you need to be a real adventurer, because even metal bursts from the cold here. Tornado Alley. If you've ever seen a tornado in real life, or at least on a video, you probably know how dangerous they can be. Tornadoes are considered the most violent type of storms, a huge vertical vortex accelerating the air to an incredible speed, sweeps away absolutely everything it encounters, and it's better not to get in its way. Tornadoes can occur anywhere in the world, but they're especially common in the US, particularly in the southeastern states known as Tornado Alley, including the states of Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska, South Dakota, and east of Colorado. For example, on the 27th of April 2011, 207 whirlwinds were documented in 24 hours. It's actually easy to explain why tornadoes appear in the US. The warm, humid air from the Gulf of Mexico meets the dry, cold air from the Rocky Mountains, trapped by air currents from the east of the country. This often creates conditions leading to severe thunderstorms, and tornadoes. Because of their frequency, America has established an alert and rapid response system. This includes the installation of shelters, sirens, and security training. Drills are held regularly, so every local knows exactly what to do when the sirens go off. In addition, the cities of the states most frequently affected by tornadoes have higher standards for the strength of buildings, and the houses themselves are often equipped with tornado shelters. Even so, tornadoes not only cause enormous losses, but also claim human lives. Mount Cinnabung. Any volcano is a cause for concern, but Cinnabung deserves a special mention. This stratovolcano, located in the northern part of Sumatra, rises 2,460 meters above sea level. It had been sleeping in peace for 4 centuries, but in August 2010 it suddenly started rumbling and woke up for some reason. Smoke and ash emissions at least 1.5 kilometers high were registered. Since Cinnabung had been sleeping for several hundred years, people built villages within a 6-kilometer radius around it. Of course, the villagers had to be evacuated. Many just fled in fear. In September of the same year, there was another eruption, then another one. Since its awakening, Cinnabung has been constantly reminding people about itself. Some eruptions have killed people, but the locals still refuse to leave the dangerous area. Meanwhile, it seems that the volcano's activity is only increasing every year. The last eruption occurred on May the 7th, 2019, when a huge column of cinder and smoke rose to a height of 2,000 meters, covering the nearest villages with ash, and local residents were advised to be wary of possible lava flows. Snake Island. Unlike the above-mentioned dangerous places, Snake Island, officially known as Ilha da Queimada Grande, can't be visited. The fact is that this piece of land, more than 30 kilometers off the shores of the Brazilian state of São Paulo, is infested with venomous snakes. But how did these creatures flood the island? They couldn't just arrive from the shores of Ireland after being kicked out by St. Patrick, right? It's kind of too far. Well, it's pretty simple. Once, Snake Island was part of the mainland, but since the level of the world's oceans had risen, the island was cut off from the mainland. Isolated and under conditions of natural selection, snakes rapidly increased their population. As a result, according to some reports, today the Snake Island is home to about 4,000 specimens of the golden lancehead, a rare and venomous species. Golden lanceheads can be more than half a meter long, and their bite causes rapid tissue death, in addition to a range of symptoms including kidney failure, muscle necrosis, brain hemorrhages, and internal bleeding. Not exactly a picnic. There is a lighthouse on Queimada Grande, but since its keepers died of snake bites, it's now operated automatically. Some experts state that there are up to 5 snakes per square meter on Snake Island, and yet they are considered to be an endangered species because Queimada Grande is the only place where the golden lanceheads can be found in the wild. The Brazilian Navy blocked access to the island in the 1920s to protect the snakes from people, and the people from the snakes. But still, some adrenaline junkies visit Queimada Grande at their own risk. Lake Nios. There are volcanic lakes everywhere on the planet, but Nios in Cameroon is special. Usually, volcanic lakes release small amounts of carbon dioxide, but in Nios, it has been accumulating for decades. Until August the 21st, 1986, a limnic eruption occurred. 80 million cubic meters of carbon dioxide suddenly burst out. The huge cloud grew at a rate of 50 kilometers per hour, killing more than 1,700 people within a radius of 25 kilometers. It was not only people who suffered though, all the animals were also wiped out. There were almost no residents left in the nearest villages, even the insects were killed. At first, scientists couldn't comprehend what had happened. They decided it was a volcanic eruption that caused the disaster. Survivors claimed that during the tragic events there was a strong smell of rotten eggs in the air, so some researchers assumed it was hydrogen sulfide that caused the human death. After all, everyone knows that this gas in high high concentrations causes rapid death. Afterwards, it turned out that vegetation on the shores of the lake also suffered. Leaves were covered with a brown film, and in some places the leaves turned black and shrank as if from the cold. It was concluded that the gas released from the bowels of the lake cooled down and froze the leaves. As is well known, the release of CO2 dissolved in water is accompanied by energy absorption and consequently causes cooling, so the answer was found. In order to prevent the catastrophe from happening again, since the beginning of the 2000s, artificial gas extraction from the lake has been carried out in this area, as well as constant monitoring. Even so, Nios remains a very dangerous water body, and you should stay far away from it. Skeleton Coast. The very name Skeleton Coast suggests that nothing good is waiting for you there. This notorious place is located to the north of the city of Swakopmund in Namibia. The cold Benguela Current, which runs from the south along the coast, cools the air and creates fogs that remain here most of the year. This is no exaggeration. Add powerful waves and irregular currents to it, and you'll see why shipping here is extremely dangerous. Since ancient times, the Skeleton Coast has had many shipwrecks. Remains of the dead ships that have lost their course and got grounded are often found on the shore. Some of them lie at a decent distance from the water, which seems rather strange, but there is a simple explanation for this phenomenon. Desert winds constantly carry sand into the sea, gradually moving the coastline to the west. It's all a natural process. All deserts tend to expand. Boats from wrecked ships could have hit the shore, but the wave activity in those places is so strong that it's almost impossible to cross it in the opposite direction by paddling. Survivors lucky enough to escape the shipwreck and reach the ground ended up in one of the world's driest and most uninhabitable deserts, hundreds of kilometers away from human settlements and sources of drinking water. There's nothing around but seals and sand. Poor sailors found their deaths on this shore. However, today the coast is scattered with skeletons of animals, not people, and you can get here by car, but the eerie reputation of the Skeleton Coast is still preserved.